Welcome, everyone. I'm criminal profiler Pat Brown, and I'm going to analyze the case of the Lindbergh baby. What happened to the Lindbergh baby? Who kidnapped the Lindbergh baby? Who is responsible? There's so many theories out there. I tell you. Let me tell you something about historical crime. It becomes hysterical crime because people become hysterical about these crimes. They start coming up with the most astounding theories that make me hysterical, as in hysterical laughter. And so I'm calling this particular segment about my analysis, it's lunacy or logic. And I want to really push logic in this particular case. I'll be doing a series of historical crimes. I'll be doing Jack the Ripper. I'll be doing the murder, yes, the murder of Cleopatra. And today we'll have what happened to the Lindbergh baby. All right, before I get started, I just want to ask that anybody who's watching right now, I would appreciate it terribly much if you support the channel because the channel needs supporting. You can simply subscribe to the channel, like this video, and hit that bell so you get notifications. Share in your true crime community. If you'd like to be involved in more of my live shows where you're in the chat room, you can join Patreon, link is below, or you can buy a book. Or you can hit super thanks and give a one-time donation and keep the channel floating. This is an educational channel. So I do things for the purposes of teaching, not for the purposes of having 1 million subscribers. Although, boy, wouldn't that be nice? All right, let me get to this story now. How fascinating this whole thing is. Now, there's maybe a few of you out there who really aren't familiar with this particular case, although it is like, I was told by many people who are into true crime, this is like the case of America, the Charles Lindbergh baby kidnapping. So let me just read you a really short piece here from my favorite place, Wikipedia. It says here on March 1st, 1932, so we're talking almost 90 years ago from the time I'm doing this video, Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr., the 20-month-old son of aviators Charles Lindbergh and Anne Morrow Lindbergh. He was abducted from his crib in the upper floor of the Lindbergh's home in Highfields in East Amwell, New Jersey, the United States. By the way, I want to point this out right here. A lot of people call this child an infant or a baby, and this child is actually almost 2 years old. So I'm going to say a toddler. This is a much larger child than people make it out to be. So it has a great deal of importance when you're talking about removing this child from the crib. And he's not a skinny little devil. He's kind of porky. So he's got some weight to him. And that's important for how do you get him out of a window of a house and down a ladder. So I think it's important to realize that he's not that small. All right. In September, let's see, on May 12th, the child's corpse was discovered by a truck driver by the side of a nearby road. He was abducted on March 1st, and on May 12th, his body was found. This also is very important when I'm going to analyze for you and help you understand the logic. He was missing for 10 weeks. The negotiations for the return of this child were going on for 10 weeks, and that's very important. In September 1934, a German immigrant carpenter named Bruno Richard Hauptmann, that's this guy, was arrested for the crime. After a trial that lasted from January 2nd to February 13th, 1935, he was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. Despite his conviction, he continued to profess his innocence, but all appeals failed, and he was executed in the electric chair at the New Jersey State Prison on April 3rd, 1936. Okay, so this was considered the trial of the century and also the crime of the century because he was such a famous man. You know, he flew his plane and he was an American hero and handsome and all this kind of stuff. So consequently, when the baby was disappeared, when the baby disappeared, this was a huge media event. And of course, during 10 weeks, it continued to be a media event because he hadn't been found. And they were trying to get the ransom together and pay the ransom. And there are all kinds of shenanigans going on. So consequently, this stayed in the media. And then he got arrested finally, and then that stayed in the media. So big, huge splash. And the media involvement is also very important in this case. Now, before I go on, I want to tell you what it is I have looked at as far as research material. So let me see here. And I read a bunch of stuff, and I saw a couple movies. The first I'm going to point out, and I'm going to put all the links below. So we have, this movie is called Crime of the Century. And this is the way somebody writes about this Crime of the Century movie. And it stars Stephen Rea and Isabella Rossellini. So, you know, big stars. And this person writes, this is a great film. I'm going to say the film was very well done. They're wonderful as Hauptmann and his wife. This TV film made about the Lindbergh case was made in 1976, and it was very simplistic and accepted the case against Hauptmann at face value. So what they say in the film is that the case smelled like a cesspool. All the evidence was against him was manufactured or misrepresented. There is no doubt this man was sent to his death because of a diabolical frame-up. In other words, he was innocent, and he was railroaded. I want to point out the interesting thing about this particular film is that the people behind it were highly anti-death penalty. So they had an agenda here, and not so much as proving whether he was innocent or guilty, but making sure he looked innocent so that the death penalty, and the final scene where he's frying in the chair, which is quite gruesome, is, you know, oh my God, how could they do that to an innocent man? So we'll find out, is this guy really innocent? Does this film, you know, have any leg to stand on? The next one I saw was Who Killed Lindbergh's Baby? This is a Nova documentary, and this has John Douglas in it, the FBI profiler John Douglas. He gives a kind of very basic profile, and they introduce a new suspect. Oh, and you know, media always likes you. When they do a new show, do a film, it's always a new suspect, and that's how they make their money, because they don't want to say the old things over and over, so they don't really care if the new suspect has any merit. We got a new suspect. Okay, do you really? Or are you just making that up to sell the show? All right. In this case, I think they did, and I'll discuss the new suspect in a little bit. All right. I also read Lindbergh Case, Story of Two Lives. This was done by Jim Fisher. This is also an FBI profiler. It's a very long book. It's a very dry book. It has a tremendous amount of details in it. Very, very much the solid story that the FBI would want you to know. He gives us very tiny profiles, shall we say, or what he thinks is true. It was a long book, let me put it that way. But if you want to read a long book and have lots of information, have at it. This one, John Douglas's book, The Cases That Haunt Us, has a chapter. And if you want the short version of the other book, read this one, because it'll save you a lot of energy. But if you're obsessed with a case, you might want the long run. All right, this one is called The Dark Corners. This isn't a highly well-known book. It might be self-pubbed. He has three in the series, and he does a tremendous amount of details, and it's actually well written, I will say that. And he does certainly push. No, he doesn't push. He says he's not going to make a determination. He's going to let people think for themselves, but he definitely has a lot of information on Charles Lindbergh, and information that would lead many people to believe that Charles Lindbergh kidnapped his own kid. So that's what this book is about. I thought it was well written. As far as that goes, I only read part of the first one, so I didn't read all three because I didn't need to. But not bad writing as far as, I don't know. Oh, I want to point this out. Here's where the problem starts with a lot of this. In historical crimes, there's so much information, and the information comes from way back then. And believe me, the media way back then, there were a lot of tabloids, yellow journalism, a lot of garbage out there. There were a lot of reporters back then, just like now, who are willing to get a story, any story, make up a story, get people to say something that's not even true, or get somebody to say something and then change it. You know, I've had that happen. I noticed in one place in one of the books, it said, this person said this, but then they said that. Why did they change their story? And I'm like, maybe they didn't. Maybe the media changed it for them, because I've had the same thing happen to me. And they think, oh, I was the one who said this and it changed my story and I'm a liar. No, they just misquoted me or they just purposely libeled me. So all that stuff, I was going to say crap, but yeah, crap that you read from way back then, who knows how much of it is even true? And so people are like, oh, yeah, see, this is what happened. This person was this way. This person was here. You don't know that. You absolutely have no clue. And then over time, as a crime remains either unsolved or still mysterious in many ways, you get people starting to write books. And they will write books and they will dredge up a whole bunch of stuff, again, you don't know is true. And to bolster their story, they'll twist things around, make connections that aren't there. And then you have 20 books with 20 different suspects, and they can't all be the guy. So somebody's not telling the truth, or they're just writing a whole bunch of fiction. So keep that in mind. So one of the things I want to do here, I'm going to simplify everything for you. I'm not going to go into deep detail on every one of these issues. I'm going to quickly get to the point of what makes sense, what doesn't, who's probably involved, who probably isn't. All right. So those are the things I read and watched. Okay. So now let's go to the case. All right. So we already know this kid's gone missing. He went missing out of his bedroom, and somebody theoretically came up on a ladder in the night about somewhere between 9 and 10, they believe, and took the child out of the bedroom nursery, through the window, down the ladder, and vanished with the child. That's the basics. All right. So now the number one person a lot of people think is involved in this crime, who took this baby. Before I start that, let me just stop and tell you. No, let me not stop. Let me just start with a suspect many people think is the guy. And who is that? Yeah, you bet. So this is Charles Lindbergh, and that's his wife, and there's their baby, and yeah, he is a huge suspect. And there's books written about him being behind everything. And why would somebody say that hero Charles Lindbergh? Did I just say Lindbergh? That's a cheese. Limburger. Something smells here. Yeah. Okay. Lindbergh. Okay. Charles Lindbergh. So why would they think Charles Lindbergh would kill his own son or have his own son kidnapped? And here's the gist of it. There are many people who believe that he was into eugenics, and that where did my thing on eugenics? Oh, here it goes. This is another very interesting book on Charles Lindbergh. It's called The Immortalist, and it is about his desire to live forever, eugenics, to have the perfect human race, which, at the time was kind of like the white race. And there was a whole thing going over there in Germany. And he was kind of okay with that. He kind of liked Hitler, liked a lot of his policies, liked a lot of his way of, forwarding the nation, and having a healthy group of people to continue the nation, because he felt if you had weak people, then you had, the nation couldn't be supported well. And so he believed in, at least to some extent. And here again, we don't know when he became kind of interested in this and how interested he was and what he would do because of it. Later on in his life, it's very interesting. They actually kind of gave that up. He became he actually got very interested in the environment. He loved Hawaii. He wanted to live there. He was concerned about the indigenous population and their survival. And he even said, who knows? The people in Africa, they may end up be a better position than white people someday. They may their society and their group of people there may rise up. Now, so there's a guy who's changed his mind a little bit. So where was he at the time in his eugenics thinking with his child? So here's the theory that people have as to why he would want to get rid of his own kid. That supposedly this child was damaged somehow, had terrible rickets, which there's no proof he ever had terrible rickets. He did see a doctor supposedly and got some medicine for preventing rickets. They can be very mild. If you have a severe rickets, you would notice it. But this child doesn't look like it has that. There's some talk about he had some heart issue. Who knows? Maybe a little heart murmur. But as far as I know, there are so many people around taking photos of this kid all the time. he seems like a normal kid to me. So I don't see that there's anything outstanding in this child that he would be embarrassed about. The child didn't have Down syndrome, so he'd think, oh, I can't have a child with Down syndrome. The child isn't on crutches. There's no evidence at all that this child had any problems. But people say, oh, yeah, you see, he had these problems, and therefore his daddy, who was into eugenics, couldn't have a less than perfect baby. Okay. There's no proof of that. So that always bothers me when people have a motive that they have no clue even exists. So, but let's go there. I'm going to go there for you. Let's say that this guy who's very controlling and likes perfection didn't think his kid was perfect enough. So he decides he's going to break his wife's heart by killing off his own kid, right? So, hey, you're going to do that, Charles? Here's what I would do. You know, supposedly he plans this huge kidnapping scheme out. So he's got to get somebody from inside the house to help him. And then he's got to fake the evidence. And then he's got to get more people to, supposedly he's going to be giving the ransom to, and he does give the ransom to. So he's got like, I don't know how many people, 3, 4, 5, 6 people all helping out this very controlling man. Now, if you're really in the news a lot, you're in the media, you're famous, you really don't want 6 losers with your secret. Because, remember the saying, the very famous saying, that 2 people can keep a secret if one of them is dead. Yep, that is the absolute truth on that. So if that's true, why would you want 3 to 4 to 5 people, losers, who easily could fall apart and give you up? Why would you want them involved? And then here's a really important thing. This went on for 10 weeks. 10 weeks of negotiating, the police swarming everywhere, people coming and going, the media all over them. 10 weeks. Now, if he already knew the baby was kidnapped and dead, and he'd want the child to be kidnapped and dead really quickly, because I'll tell you something, I have worked cases where somebody was involved in the murder of their child. And by day 2, when the police are still trying to figure out what happened, they're like, hey, do we have to do this all the time? This, why are we still doing this? If the child is missing, why are we still looking for that kid? In other words, they're already over it. 2 or 3 days in, they're like over it. They know what happened to the kid. They're getting really annoyed that the police are still looking and the media is still there. For God's sake, stop it. I just want to go on with my life. I know my kid's dead, so I just want to go on with my life. Stop it. So you think he's going to go through 10 weeks of hell? I don't think so. That's just not the way people work. Let me show you what he would have done. If he wanted to get rid of his kid, I'll give him a quick scenario of how I would have done it if I were him. The guy is an aviator, right? He has planes. He goes up in planes. Well, let's look at it this way. You see that thing in the front of the plane? That's called a propeller. You have that thing on the ground. You take your little kid when nobody's looking, and you shove him into the propeller, and the thing goes whack. Okay, kid's dead. Nobody sees it but you. And you're horrified. You scream out, oh my God, oh my God. And everybody comes running and your child is laying on the ground in front of your plane with a propeller going, and oh my God, disaster has happened. And you think anybody's going to accuse Charles Lindbergh of murdering his baby with a plane? I don't think so. They're going to say, well, it's a tragic accident. Or take the boy for a ride. Oh, shoot. Whoop. Kid fell out of the plane. Dang it all. Same thing. Who's going to accuse this man, this hero, of purposely killing his own child? It's a tragic accident. So Charles Lindbergh had the easiest way to get rid of his kid, of probably anybody, that he didn't need to hire a whole bunch of idiots to work with him and hope to keep their mouths shut and hope the police, this whole thing gets resolved quickly and not take 10 weeks. The whole thing is absolute lunacy. It's nonsensical. So sorry, guys, if you were waiting for me to come forth in the show, I know some of you were, to say Charles Lindbergh was behind what happened to his child. The other theory is that it isn't so much that Charles Lindbergh planned a kidnapping, but that he was playing around and dropped the kid off the ladder because he was doing some silly stuff. That's a theory that he did horrible, mean things with his kid. Like he would lock his kid outside to make him stronger. We don't know if these stories have any validity. Even if it did, it could be something like the kid was, he said, come on in, come on in. The kid said, yeah, I want to come in. He pulls the door shut for just a second, and then, okay, you going to come in now? I might have done that with my kid. There was a story about him like doing terrible things with pillows with the kid. And somebody else said, no, that was a pillow fight. The kid's almost 2. He's not an infant that you're throwing pillows down on. He might be just throwing little pillows and the kid's going, So there's all these stories. And actually, I think I only read 3 stories about how mean and horrible he was. So, and he actually wasn't around that much because he was so busy. So this is just fabrication of all sorts and gossip. We just don't know. And it just makes no sense that he's behind this and all these things. All this went on and no. Okay, so now if it's not Charles Lindbergh, who is it? Well, let's go to who they arrested because, they got their guy. All right, what was the evidence? Let me just tell you the basic evidence to begin with. All right, here was the basic evidence. So after somebody came in and took the kid out of the nursery, a letter was left, written in what appeared to be by a German person because of the grammar structure and so forth. And so they said a German dude wrote this, and then he left this, what was considered his signature, something he stamped on every letter or did to every letter, so that whoever got the letters knows it's from him and not some hoaxer. So this was left at the scene. A homemade ladder in 3 parts, and they put the parts together so they could go up the side of the house. That was also found at the scene. That was left at the scene, which I find kind of interesting because if it came in 3 parts and you brought it so you could put it in the back of your vehicle and then bring it to the house and then you could put it together and then you took it down, why did you leave it there? Because it's evidence. Why did it not go in the vehicle and leave with the kidnapper or kidnappers? It's an interesting point. The other thing happened was after the many weeks of negotiating, $50,000 was paid, and they had the numbers of certain bills, special bills that were no longer on the market. And so they're waiting for somebody to pass those bills to buy things with them. And one day somebody did. And so that day, in particular, a guy was, I think it was a gas station, handed the guy a bill. And the guy thought, this could be fake or something, And so he wrote the guy's number. He saw the guy's vehicle and he wrote the number of the vehicle, the license plate on the bill right here. And then he took it to the bank, and the bank accepted it, so he wasn't really worried. But when the bank checked all the numbers that they were looking for these bills, this was one of them. And then they saw the number here, and they went and they found out that this was the guy who passed it was a German guy. How about that? A German carpenter. Oh, even more interesting. So this is the guy. Oh, look, where is he? Where's my guy? All right, here he is. Okay, now let me tell you who he is. This is the guy that was executed. His name was Bruno Richard Hauptmann, who was a German-born carpenter who was convicted of the abduction and murder of the 20-month-old son of aviator Charles Lindbergh and his wife, Anne-Maure Lindbergh. Okay, he protested his innocence, yada, yada, yada. All right, now, he's the guy. Now, why did they think he did it? All right, there's a lot of possibilities. And I'm going to go back to, let me go back here to the evidence. This evidence, there were, I think, 14 letters, all written by the same guy. Handwriting experts believed it matched Hauptmann's handwriting. I've looked at some of it. I'm not overly impressed, but, I couldn't get enough, I couldn't see enough of it to actually do my own real deep research and analysis of it, examination. And I'm not a handwriting specialist in that way. So, they say it matched him, but let's put that aside. Let's say it's one of those opinion things. Get rid of that. All right. When they went to this guy's house, they found, and he had hidden about $14,000 of the kidnapped money was hidden in his house. And it wasn't just in a cookie jar. The dude had put it in packages behind walls and nailed it in. He supposedly had another place where he drilled holes and put that in there. All kinds of places, all over his home, he hid $14,000. So he knew something was wrong with that money. And he had the money. He had $14,000. Now, this is different than one guy. If they had gone there and only found that he had passed that one note, he went to a gas station, paid for some gas, handed them a 10. He could have gotten that from as change from someplace else, right? They wouldn't have arrested him for having one note. But then they found out his people had ID'd him in like 5, 6, 7 different places. Plus, he had $14,000 of the money in his house. So I would say pretty darn good. And if you hear rumbling behind me, there's a thunderstorm. I was hoping to get this finished before it hit, and hopefully it won't crash the whole show. So anyway, whoa, it's getting louder. Okay, the other reason they got him was because he's a carpenter, and he can build these things. And on top of that, when they went into his attic, they found pieces of this that matched the grain of the wood up there. And let's face it, he clearly made these. So is he guilty? 100%. Got the right guy. Let's get rid of all this concept that he didn't do it. He was definitely involved. There's no way out of it. He was there. Now, once I've said that, the next question people have is, well, a lot of claims is that he was duped, that he was just this foolish guy. And what he did was he claimed, let me show you the next guy in this. Before I go on, I'll just mention this one, just for the sake of it. This guy over here is, what is his name again? Dr. John Condon. He is the one that became the go-between for Lindbergh and the kidnappers. He kind of inserted himself into the investigation. He said, hey, I'd be willing to do that job. And the kidnappers accepted him. And so he spent time running back and forth, trying to negotiate with the kidnappers. Even supposedly went to the cemetery where they were supposed to be and actually met the kidnapper, who he calls him Cemetery John, because the guy said his name was John. And he believed that he looked like this guy and had a German accent, or he's really Swedish. So this guy was in between. So a lot of people thought he was involved with the crime. And it's reasonable to think, because he did insert himself. And, he could have gone to that cemetery and never seen anybody, but claimed he did. He could have made up all kinds of crap. But the letters did say a lot of the stuff that he said. So the story that was in the letters was very similar. So I'm going to say maybe he probably did meet the person. I think he's just one of those guys who wants to be involved. He wants to be hero himself. He's a showman in his own way. He's blustery and all that. So a lot of people didn't like him. He just like, him. So, but I don't think he was involved in the crime. I don't see any evidence of that. So what people do think could be, but I don't see that he never ended up with the money. I don't see that it's him. So who could be involved? Well, here is, let me get the right guy here. Wait a minute, where is he? Hold on a second. I hate it when I lose pictures. Okay, there's my guy. Okay, where's my other guy? He went missing. I'm gonna have to find him in a minute. So wait a minute, hold on 1 second. I've got a missing picture, and I hate it when I have missing pictures. So just wait a second, I'll find the other one. Oh, here we go. Like, where is my other missing picture? All right, now I've got it. All right. Well, I'll talk about this dude. Okay, this guy showed up in the movie, the Nova documentary, and he was maybe he was the guy in the cemetery talking to Dr. Condon. Maybe it was him. And how does this guy even play into anything? Because nobody knew a thing about this guy till very, very recently, especially until the Nova documentary came out. And this guy, his name is John Knoll. All right. This is what is claimed. So this guy, what is the guy's name? I don't even care what his name is, because it's idiotic. So anyway, this man who claims that John Knoll was involved in the kidnapping says that when his father was a teenager. I love it when people talk about their fathers having these stories, not even them, but my father. So his father claimed that when he was a teenager, he went with a friend and was invited by some deli guy to go to Palisades amusement park in Jersey to go have a great time. And while they were there, he overheard this guy from the deli talking to another man, the guy from the deli being John Knoll, apparently. and he was talking to another man, and he said two words to that man, Bruno, which was the first name of Richard Hauptmann over here, but nobody ever called him Bruno, by the way. He was always called Richard. So interesting how this man called the guy who was talking to behind like a fence or wherever he was having this conversation, Bruno. And then they mentioned Englewood, which is one of the homes of the family of the Lindberghs. Now, mind you, this kid supposedly as a teenager overhears this conversation. Doesn't overhear even anything about the conversation, just the two words, Bruno and Englewood. And what happens? About 6 months later, the crime goes down. And it's all over the papers eventually, and then, that Englewood might have been mentioned. And then later when this guy was arrested, they had his name, Bruno, all over the paper. The teenager said nothing to anybody. He just went on about his business. But 40 years later, when he's in his 60s, he reads something about this case and sees the word Bruno and sees the word Englewood and goes, oh my God, those are the two words I heard when I was a teenager at Palisades Amusement Park. Really? I mean, they didn't mean anything to you then. You really think that you were going to remember those two words for 40 years when they had no significance to you whatsoever? I sincerely doubt that. And if you buy that, yes, I have things to sell you don't even want. And for a high price. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So this whole nonsense, I think they never could connect him. All they could come up with was that, I guess about that time, he apparently came into some money and went on a boat and got a fancy cabin or something with his wife. So therefore, he must be in on the kidnapping. And this shows up on the Nova show because, they needed something new. And then poor John Douglas and I, John Douglas and I don't see eye to eye on many things, but I feel kind of bad for him there because they go, well, what do you think of John Nolan? He's like, oh, well, that's a possibility. And I know he probably was asked about this before he took the job. Hey, can you, what about this John Knoll guy? We want to have this thing about John Knoll, so you can go along with the program, right? And Douglas is probably like, oh, probably ridiculous. But yeah, we'll just say it could be him. I want the job. So anyway, John Knoll, meaningless, absolutely meaningless. So let's get rid of that guy as a useless suspect. So anyway, now we still have Hauptmann because we do know he's involved. Now, what did Hauptmann say that makes him, what shall we say? I'm having this weird problem. Oh, you know what my weird problem is? Hold on a second. I figured it out. Okay. My thing keeps disappearing. So hold on a second. Sometimes if you have too many, oh, look, I've got a green screen now behind me. That's what it really looks like. If you have too many green screen pictures, then they won't let you put a new one on. So that's why it never showed. Okay, here we go. See? Things can be fixed. And I don't edit any of my shows, so you get to see what I'm doing. Not so pretty sometimes. All right, so now we have Hauptmann again. This guy. Now, this guy to me is very interesting. When Hauptmann got caught, his excuse for having a whole bunch of kidnapping money in his house hidden away was that this guy, who he knows, who was a friend of his, who he did business with. By the way, this guy's a con man. His name is Isidore Fish. He did stuff in fur trading, a bunch of other stuff, but he was kind of a con artist. And he, by the way, in case you're thinking this is Mr. Nice Guy, like, oh, poor dear, he just got wrapped. This dude's a criminal. And back in Germany, he was a criminal. He was a burglar. And in one of the cases, he actually climbed a ladder to a second-story window in that crime. So can you think of another crime? Oh, yeah, the Lindbergh baby crime. Yeah. So he's already got the MO, and he's a criminal. He hooks up with another criminal, and they're friends. So he claims that this guy was leaving the country and asked him to hold on to some stuff for him. You know, that old thing. I don't know why there were 50 kilos of whatever in my luggage at the airport. It must have been a friend put it there. So he says, a friend left this stuff with me. And he left something in a box, right? And he just put the box up on the shelf and never looked in it. Because he's a criminal. So I'm going to say, your friend left the country and you're a criminal? Ooh, what's in there? Okay, so he claims he didn't look in it for a long time until he died. So he goes back to Germany and he dies. He dies of tuberculosis. And he supposedly hadn't been able to afford treatment or something in the US. So eventually he goes back. That's just some stories again, but he dies. He claims after this guy dies, he's like, oh, shucks, he's died. Well, I might as well look at his stuff now because I've been such a good boy. I've never looked at it until now. And he looks in the stuff and, oh my God, there's $14,000 worth of money in there. So what does he do? He starts spending it. He keeps it. He spends it. So he not even thinking that this might be stolen funds. He said, oh, he owed me 7,000 anyway. So that's why I was using it, because he really owed me the money. Because I lent him 7,000 bucks he never paid back. Sure. Okay. Remember that thing I just said? Mark Twain. There's Mark Twain, by the way. Two people can keep a secret if one of them is dead. That's the dead guy. That's the guy keeping the secret. Dead guy, secret guy. So I'm going to say bull. So now, was there one person involved in the crime? Or were there two people involved in the crime? Or were there more? I personally believe there were two people involved in the actual crime. I believe these are the two people. They were friends. They did criminal things together, mostly con stuff together. He needed money. He needed money. They both ended up with, well, he ended up with the money. He claims he had the money. So what are the chances they're in cahoots? Okay, I'm going to say yes. Now, let me tell you another reason why I think they're in cahoots. Here is a picture of the house. Now, this is the ladders, which the ladder, the three, they go together, the three parts that I believe that Hauptmann made, because he had the talent to do so, and it matched his attic. Okay, now this is the actual house, and these are old pictures, and they're trying to show, they put the ladder up there, they're trying to test how this would work. They put the ladder up, and then they try to go up the ladder and climb in the window. Now, I'm going to say this. That isn't the strongest looking ladder, first of all. So I don't know why it wasn't stronger. Maybe because he had to be very portable, and if he made it out of heavier material, he couldn't get it in the vehicle. So he made it out of what he could, and he thought this will do. However, I don't like ladders. I don't go up ladders, but I can tell you this: people fall off of ladders, and ladders flip. So we got a ladder here. You're trying. It's, by the way, it's rainy outside, windy and rainy. You put this ladder up here. You want somebody down here holding the ladder when you go up that ladder. You want somebody to stabilize it, because otherwise it's going to be kind of risky. And when you get up here and you're trying to, like, see, this guy's trying to get in the window. If that ladder slips and falls on the ground, what you gonna do? You're now like, you're gonna drop, break your leg. That caught. Somebody went up that ladder, and somebody held that ladder, in my opinion. Now, who went up the ladder? Who stayed at the bottom? Well, I personally think, looking back at our guys here, he's bigger than him, but he also had what they called at the time consumption. What does consumption do? Tuberculosis. Consumption consumes your body. You lose weight. He's the thin guy. He's the weaker guy, but he's smaller and lighter to go up the top of the ladder. So I also think this guy's slick too. I think he's very slick. So I'm thinking he's going, okay, I made the ladder, you go up it. I'm going to hold the ladder down here. If you fall, I'm going to run, jump in my vehicle, and get the hell out of here, because I'm at the bottom, you see. I'm going to make you do the dangerous stuff of going up there. You're dying anyway, you got tuberculosis. So I think he held the bottom, and Isadora Fish went up, crawled in that window. Now, there's a lot of issues about how they got the baby out of the bed and whether they put the baby in a burlap bag, because the baby, well, I say baby now, child. There was when the child's body was found, there was a burlap bag on that road which had blonde hair in it. So there's a theory that the guy went in the window and then took the child and somehow stuffed him in the bag, maybe closed it up so he could hold it over the kid's mouth. I think at that point, it's very hard to climb out a window carrying that child and get on that ladder. I think at that point, I would believe that Hauptmann went partway up that ladder and took the child and went back down with it. And there is a point in that ladder where it broke, and they believe at least I believe, and Douglas believes, and some other people believe, that's when the child fell and cracked his head on there's like granite or some kind of, hard stuff down below. I think it's about, here, look at my finger there, somewhere around here on that windowsill or in the bottom too, just cracked his head, pretty much killed the kid or got the kid close to being dead. So now you got a dead kid in a burlap bag. So now they pull the ladder down. Mr. Door comes down. They pull the ladder apart. Why did they leave it on the property, which they did? Maybe at that point they were panicked and they just didn't want to try. They just threw it and then ran. I don't know. But the kid's pretty much dead. And if the kid isn't totally dead, they made the kid dead, either by hitting it again or by stabbing it in the head with something, or theoretically a shot. But they didn't find any. They didn't find a bullet there with the body. So, but the kid was either dead or almost dead, and they were like screwed. They're like, well, we can't use this kid anymore in the whole thing. That's why they could never, put the newspaper up and take a picture, which is what I would think they would plan. They're trying to get a rich man to give up his money for his live child. Usually you do something to prove the kid's alive. They eventually sent his little sleeping suit. But what does that mean? Obviously they took it off the dead kid anyway. So that proves nothing. It only proves you have the kid. Doesn't prove the kid's alive. So I think they would probably have taken pictures and sent those, but handed those over. But now they had a dead kid, so they were just trying to get the money one way or the other. And they made up lie after lie after lie. The kid's being taken care of by two lovely ladies. He's on a boat. No, he's not. This is all garbage, because they didn't have any. They couldn't prove the kid was there. Breathing still. So they just kept playing the game until they got the money. And it went on for 10 weeks. So that must have been a long haul. And I believe that the letter after letter after letter, the frustration was just building, because once you've already done this and you've taken that chance and kid's dead, you kind of want the money. You really want the money. I think that's basically what happened. So I believe that these two guys, these were the main players. Now, just to add one thing, there's a lot of belief that there had to be somebody on the inside. Why do they believe that? Well, apparently the Lindberghs weren't even supposed to be at this was a home they were building, and they were usually there only on the weekends. They normally weren't there on Monday and Tuesday, which now they were. So nobody could figure out take a look at this picture. How did these people, whoever the kidnappers, know that the kid would be up in that room, that was even the nursery, that they could access this without getting caught, like the dogs or other people wandering around the property? How did they know what time the kid went to bed and went to sleep? How do they know who was in the room with the child? There's a lot of risk being taken. And one possibility is that they took the risk. Sometimes people do some really freaky things. And got to understand that Hauptmann had been caught before. He had to flee Germany because he broke out of prison. The guy wasn't that bright. So, he might have said, hey, we got this opportunity. He might have been surveilling the house. He might have gotten some word that, hey, those people are in town, and they're in town with their kid. Maybe some reason they knew that was a nursery. They took a risk. I don't know. Some people wonder why they went on a windy, cold, rainy night. Maybe because they figured nobody'd be outside. Again, I don't know. Maybe it's because they thought it was their only chance, so they were going to do it anyway. Maybe another possible. Oh, the other question is, why would they do it so early? Why not wait till 1 or 2 in the morning? Another good question. You think it would be a better time 1 or 2 in the morning? Everybody be asleep in the house? Maybe they thought it would be too quiet, and they thought they'd be better off if people were busy downstairs and distracted. Don't know the answer to that. Or, and here's another point. Somebody was on the inside. Somebody on the inside told them this was the room, the kid was there, and helped them know when to come and get the kid. Supposedly, between 8 and 10 o'clock, Charles Lindbergh said, nobody's to disturb that kid. Some people thought that was really super mean. What kind of daddy is he? The kid goes to bed at 8 o'clock and nobody goes in that room until 10. Why? Well, a lot of people used to believe that, and still do, that you let a kid cry it out. In other words, if you put the kid down and he goes, ah, and you run in there, he's going to keep doing it night after night after night. And I will actually agree with that. Sometimes you just got to play play mean for like a couple of nights until the kid says, okay, nobody's coming in here and listening to me. So I might as well go to sleep. Same thing when a kid runs into your bedroom, wants to sleep with you. Do you keep them there or do you put them back? So Charles Lindbergh, I guess, was trying to teach his kid, don't fall for that, because we're going to be running in there all the time. And of course, he's a boy too, So, and he was a strict man. So let the kid figure out he's not going to cry. He's just going to go to sleep. So he goes down at 8:00. Nobody goes in the room. The kid goes to sleep. Now that information could have gotten out in the public. It could, the nurse knew that, the wife knew that, other people knew that in the house that worked there. Who knows if it got into the newspapers? I don't know. So somebody might have known, from 8 to 10, that kid is in that room alone. Okay. Now, supposedly also, how did the kidnappers know the child was going to be there that night? Well, there was a phone call. They had these two houses, and what happened was Charles, the baby, Charlie, came down with a cold. And so it was decided they would not leave this house and go back to the one they were staying at. They would stay here because the kid was sick. So the mother made a phone call to the other house to reach this woman who was the nurse. And her name is, let me just get her name straight again, Betty Gow. Betty Gow was the nurse. She was, she took care of the baby at the other place and often didn't go with them to the new place and for the weekends. And I don't know why, and I'm not quite sure I understand that. But anyway, maybe it's her weekend off or something, so they let her have the weekend off. They called up to the other house to get her to come down to the house. And she didn't answer the phone. So who answered the phone was the other woman, and her name is Violet Sharp. And she worked, I think, as a housemaid. She got the message, and eventually the message did get to the nurse, and the nurse was driven down to the house. Okay, so two people, the nurse and the housemaid, knew the baby was going to be there. The police harassed the living heck out of Violet here because they asked her where she was that day, and she told some really cockamamie stories and forgot who she went on a date with, and she forgot what movie she saw. And they were like, that is really suspicious. You knew the baby was going to be there. Maybe you had something to do with it. Maybe you and your boyfriend had something to do with it, whoever you're with. And they harassed her. And one day they came to harass her one more time, to interview her one more time, and she took cyanide. She drank what is it called? Cyanide chloride. It's for silver polish. Poured it in water and died. So a lot of people think she was the inside person. However, I actually find this woman much more interesting. This is Betty Gow. She was the one who was in the room with the baby. So she took the baby up with the mother, put the baby in the crib. She made a little, for some reason, she fed milk and magnesia to the kid, and the kid went, that was disgusting. Got on his clothes, took that off, and she made him a little flannel, like a little flannel thing, just keep him warm with she just cut something out, some flannel, and then sewed it up and chucked it over the kid, put another shirt on, and then his little warmy thing. And then she put him in the bed, put the blanket over him, and then did this thing where she used safety pins and pinned the blanket down into the crib sheets or whatever it was. And I'm guessing that's called, she's swaddling him. So he's moving around, which I thought was kind of weird, because you should do that with an infant. You don't do that with a kid who's almost 2 years old. So I don't really understand that. But hey, this is a long time ago. So she did that. And then supposedly the mom left the room. She was still in the room with the kid for a little longer, and then she left the room. Now, during the time she was in the room, this is an opportune time for her to open the shutter, let them know, have at it, I'm leaving the room now. And that could be a signal. She could walk out of the room, then the kidnappers come up the ladder, take the kid. She comes back later, kid's gone. Possible. The other possibility is that the milk of magnesia had more in it than milk of magnesia. She could have put something in the milk of magnesia so that the child would sleep. And when the kidnappers come in, you don't have a shrieking 2-year-old as you're trying to take the kid out the window. So she could have essentially medicated the milk of magnesia so the kid would not be, causing trouble. I think that makes a lot of sense. They did interview her over and over and over again. She stuck to her basic story that she just took care of the child, and then she put him to bed and left the room and came back, and oh my God, he was gone. There's a little story about how when she came in, There's just a light from the hallway. She couldn't see clearly, but she went toward the baby and she didn't hear any breathing. This is like at 10 o'clock when they're allowed to come back in. And she didn't hear him breathing. She said, "What's up with that?" And she put her hand down, and then she didn't feel him in the bed. Boom, 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 boom. Later on, when Charles came in, the father, he said that he knew immediately the child had been taken because he could see that the pins were there and the thing was like, the blanket was like up in the air, like he sucked the body out. And somebody questioned, and I think reasonably, that if she had patted that down to feel the baby, why was it still up like this? I don't know. And again, these are the things that are not real clear. Maybe she only patted the bottom and knew halfway up that that kid was not there. Maybe her eyes adjusted to the dark and she saw he was not there. So can't take that super seriously to say she's a liar. So there's no proof that she was involved in this crime. But if I had to pick somebody on the inside, I would pick her because she would have the opportunity to tell somebody that the child was there. She'd have the opportunity of being in the room and opening up a shutter and letting people know that kidnappers know it's time. You can come up now. And then she could walk out. She could even, if she wanted to, lurk around in case anybody came down the hall and decided to look in there. She could have distracted them to make sure the kidnappers had done the deed. So if I were going to pick an inside person, I would pick, what's her name again? Sorry, Betty Gow. I would pick her if I were going to pick anybody. So I believe, to sum this all up, these two guys, I believe, are partners. Now, that makes the most sense to me. They knew each other. They were in all kinds of other crooked kind of things together. This guy was, he needed the money. He liked to invest money, so did he. But he was also sick and needed some extra money for that. He might have think, oh, if I'm going to die, I can take a chance on this. Might as well. He just loved a lot of money. He liked investing and making lots of money, and it was his thing. And so I think these two make perfect sense as a criminal duo, that they needed two people to handle the ladder issue. So I really have a problem believing that only one person brought the ladder, climbed up the ladder. Also, if the child was still alive, it helps to have somebody driving and the other one holding on to the kid, So I think these two guys were in it together. I think there's a possibility of a third person. She could have been involved, but there's no proof of that. But how did they know where to go, when to go? And the most useful person would have been her. But I don't have any proof that she was involved. Just I find it interesting that she could have drugged the child. She could have opened the shutter. She could have let them know. And she could have distracted people and knew what was happening in that room. So she is the most likely, in my opinion, as a third party. But I think they got the right guy. I think he deserved the execution. I don't believe he was just some chump that he was used by everybody else. And they just gave him the money and said, go spend it, dude. And he did it. And he had no idea what that money was. And he was just an innocent little man. No, that guy was a career criminal. So don't fall for that one. So that's my take on this entire case. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it made more sense than some of the stuff out there. You may not agree with everything I say, but at least I hope that I've brought logic to this and a little less lunacy. And so this is the first of my my historical and not hysterical crimes that I wanted to talk about. And I really enjoyed looking at this one, and I hope to see you at the next historical crime. Bye. Oh, back again.